Hi guys, Harry here from MoveMind. Just doing a couple of guest videos for you for Beyond Grappling. Today we're going to look at 3 exercises for glute activation. But before I get into that, I just want to have a little word about glute activation, or a word of caution surrounding it. Glute activation became a bit of a fad term recently, in the sense that everyone needs their glutes activated, like your glutes aren't firing. Likely not the case. What's usually happening is, because we sit a lot in daily life, the glutes switch off and they become atrophied, essentially. They're not strong enough to do their job. What is the job of the glutes? The job of the glutes is simple. Their main function is to extend the hips, okay? To push the hips forward into extension when the glutes are contracted. When we sit and we're in a seated position, the hip is flexed and the glutes are switched off, okay? So glutes are important. What are the muscles that make up the glutes? Well, the big chunky one, glute max, and then we've got glute med and glute min that sit up here, which are more of the glute stabilizers, okay? The hip stabilizers. So you've got glute max, which its main function is hip extension, and then you've got the hip stabilizers here. Primary job is hip abduction. So we're going to look at 3 ways to fire all these muscles up. You can use these as a warm-up before you're lifting or before grappling, and you can also use them as kind of accessory work for some of the stability work at the end of your training session too. Okay, so exercise number 1 is the good old-fashioned glute bridge. Bridging mechanics come up a lot in grappling, especially on the ground-based techniques for jiu-jitsu, and usually it's from a defensive point of view that we use hip extension, or in this sense, the glute bridge. Okay, so real simple, plant your feet into the floor. You don't want to have your heels too far away from your bum, and you don't want to have them too close. So somewhere in between, back press flat into the floor, and then as we exhale, we push the hips into the sky, squeezing your bum. Pretty simple. High repetitions work best. 15 to 20 reps are good. And then you can use this as a warm-up if you're going to do hip thrusts in your training session, or if you're going to do any deadlift variations in your training session. Remember that the glute bridge alone at body weight is not enough to overload the glute max muscle to get you stronger. But it will turn the glute max muscle on both sides to help prepare you for your training session. So exercise number 2 addresses the other glute muscles that we mentioned at the beginning of the video, the glute med and the glute min. Okay, so these are the hip stabilizers. For this, we're going to get into a side plank position. Your elbow is going to be in line with your hip, which is going to be in line with your knee. And then you're going to have a 90-degree bend in both of your knees. Glue your heels together. We're going to go up into a side plank, pushing our bottom leg into the floor. And then from here, we're just going to open the top leg, beginner variation. And we're going to hold this for 15 to 20 seconds. More advanced progression, you're going to straighten that top leg. And then you can hold anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Yeah, by doing this and just holding, you'll be turning on your hip stabilizers on the bottom, and then also hip stabilizers on the top hip. Okay, this is more of a stability exercise. This works well to develop endurance in these stabilizer muscles. And unlike the glute bridge, this exercise is sufficient for building strength endurance in these local hip stabilizer muscles here, the glute med and glute min. So you don't actually need to load this with any weight. Body weight is fine. Okay, third exercise for the glute activation side of things is a little bit more of a hip mobility exercise that incorporates activation of the glute max on one of the legs, and this is the Cook hip lift. So to perform the Cook hip lift, think of it as a single leg glute bridge. One of your feet is in the same position as you did for the double foot glute bridge. You're just going to pull the other knee into your chest. Get ready with an inhale, and then exhale, keeping your knee pulled into your chest. You're just going to exhale and extend that other hip, and then down. Inhale, exhale, lift. Now what you'll notice is my right hip is going into extension, but at the same time my left hip is in flexion. Okay, this is great for grapplers because very often we're in a split position when we're in defensive cycles and playing off of our back, where one of our legs might extend and one of our hips might extend, but the other hip is in flexion and the other knee is flexed. So this is a little bit more targeting the actual hip mobility, but it does incorporate the glute max to extend the bottom hip. Now you can do this for anywhere for 8 to 10 reps per side. Again, it works great as a warm-up before lifting, or you can use this as a cool down or as an accessory movement at the end of your lifting session. So thanks for watching this video, guys, on 3 ways to activate the glutes. Remember, activation of the glutes isn't as important as just building the actual function of being able to extend the hips by using your glute muscles. And we looked at ways to turn on the glute max, and then a couple of ways to turn on the hip stabilizers, glute med and glute min, and then a little bit of hip mobility with the third exercise, the Cook hip lift. My name's Harry from MoveMind. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.